Okay, so you want to buy a food truck. It makes sense. A restaurant costs a fortune and eats you alive for years. A truck is what, 50 grand? You park it where the crowd already is, you cook what you love, and you finally stop working for someone else. Except, here's the strange part. A food truck is one of the only businesses that's more profitable than a restaurant on paper, and still fails almost twice as often. There are 92,000 of them in America now, up 17% in a single year, a $2.8 billion business, and more than half of the new ones are gone within 12 months. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what it really costs to get on the road, where the money actually hides, and why the trucks that win barely sell food on the street at all. Because the number that pulls people into this business is the same number that ruins them. Let's start with what it actually costs to get on the road. Because a food truck is really 3 different price tags wearing the same 2 words. The cheapest way in is a towable trailer, $15,000 to $50,000, but a trailer can't move itself, so now you're also buying a truck to pull it. Step up to a used truck with the kitchen already built in, and you're looking at $40,000 to $80,000. And used prices have jumped 15 to 20% since 2022, because everyone watching a video like this one had the exact same idea. Want it new and custom? That's $85,000 to $120,000 on an average build, and well past $200,000 if you want it nice. Then come the costs nobody puts in the fantasy. The wrap, $2,000 to $5,000. The kitchen equipment, $10,000 to $45,000. Point of sale, opening inventory, a generator, and you still haven't turned the key. But the next cost is the one that really stings. In most American cities, it is illegal to cook in your truck and park it in your own driveway. Health code says your food has to be prepped and stored in a licensed commercial kitchen called a commissary, and you rent it, $250 to $3,000 every single month before you sell a taco. Then the permits. There's no national price because there's no national rule book. A few $100s in one state, up to $1,000 a year in California, and first-year regulatory costs that can quietly climb past $30,000 if you cross the wrong city line. Add it up, and the cheap way into food service starts around $100,000 all in, and you haven't sold a single meal yet. Now let's talk about what you're actually selling, and it is not lunch. Here's the number that pulls people in. The average food truck grosses around $346,000 a year. Some clear $500,000. Say that out loud. $350,000 out of a truck. You can see why 92,000 people signed up. But revenue is not income.
And this is the exact spot where the internet lies to you. IBISWorld, the firm that actually audits industries, puts the average food truck's net profit margin at about 5%. 5. On $346,000 in sales, that leaves you roughly $17,000. A truck that outgrosses most small restaurants can pay its owner less than a warehouse ship. Look at where every dollar goes. Food eats 25 to 35 cents of it. Hire even 1 or 2 people, and labor takes another 20 to 30, with wages and insurance adding $60,000 to $80,000 a year. Then the truck payment, the fuel, the insurance, the commissary. By the time the dust settles, the owner is the last person in line to get paid. So how does anyone get rich doing this? They stop treating the truck like a restaurant. Watch what happens to the same truck in 2 different spots. On the street, a good day is $750 to $2,000 at a 10 to 20% margin. After the cost stack, that's close to nothing.
But roll that exact truck up to a wedding, a corporate lunch, or a music festival, and a single day can do $6,000 to $13,000 at a 50 to 60% margin. There's an old line in this industry. Street vending builds the brand, catering brings the money. Every truck that actually makes it has a big share of its sales in catering and private events. The street corner is not the business. The street corner is the billboard. But catering is a harder job than parking and serving, and a different one. It's business to business. You're chasing event planners, booking months out, hauling gear into someone else's venue. The people who crack it aren't better cooks, they're better at getting booked. That's the whole model in one sentence. The truck is how people find you. The events are how you get paid. Which means the truck itself, the thing you just spent $100 grand on, is not where the money lives. And the moment you understand that, you understand why so many owners quietly go under. So if a truck can out-earn a restaurant, why do more than half of them disappear in the first year? Because the costs don't wait for good weather. That commissary rent, $1,000 to $3,000 a month, is due whether it it poured all weekend or not. Insurance doesn't pause. The truck payment doesn't pause. Fuel and propane run $500 to $2,000 a month, and when gas spikes, it moves fast. One operator watched his daily fuel costs jump from $45 to $115, up 40% almost overnight. Then there's the machine itself. Your generator dies, and that's $500 to $2,500 to fix. But the real damage is downstream. The food you already bought spoils, and you lose a full service day. One bad generator morning can quietly cost you $1,300 to $5,500. One owner whose truck got hit by an ambulance estimated $35,000 in lost revenue over a single month off the road. And your ingredients don't hold still either. A New York truck manager watched some of his costs climb 30% in 1 year.
And none of that includes the slow season. Winter comes, the festivals stop, the outdoor crowds vanish, but the commissary, the insurance, and the loan all keep their hands out. Fail one health inspection, and you're shut down for the day on top of it, watching a fridge full of inventory turn into garbage. But here's the killer you can't outwork. In a lot of cities, the law decides whether you're even allowed to park. Chicago bans food trucks from setting up within 200 feet of any restaurant that sells similar food, and there are over 600 of those downtown. In practice, it is illegal to run a food truck in the middle of Chicago. Get caught, and each ticket runs $1,000 to $2,000. Baltimore has a 300-foot version. Louisville, 150. Stack it all together, food takes a third of every dollar. Labor takes a quarter. Then rent, fuel, insurance, permits. Be your own boss turns into a math problem where you are the last one who gets paid. Step back for a second, because there's a pattern in who survives this and who doesn't. So who actually gets rich here? Almost never the person handing food out the window. The winners treat the truck as step one, not the whole plan. And the two ways people lose show up over and over. Take Clover Food Lab. It started in 2008 as a single truck outside MIT, run by a Harvard MBA. Exactly the smart operator story you'd bet on. It grew to more than 15 restaurants. Then, in November 2023, it filed for bankruptcy. High rent, thin sales, and its funding collapsed when Silicon Valley Bank went down and took the financing with it. It clawed back out, announced it would open 50 new locations, and instead, in May of 2026, after 17 years, it closed every single one. The lesson: the step up from a truck, going brick and mortar, building a chain, is exactly where the biggest and most public collapses happen. Or take Laura Pekarik.
She ran a cupcake truck in Chicago and did everything right, except the city had already drawn her off the map. She sued over that 200-foot rule back in 2012. The fight went all the way to the Illinois Supreme Court, and in 2021, after 9 years, she lost. The court admitted the rule existed to protect restaurants from their mobile competition, and left it standing anyway. The lesson? In this business, City Hall can end your route with a pin, and it doesn't matter how good your cupcakes are. Now, here's the case the internet loves. Dewan Matthews, 32, Houston. He couldn't get hired with a felony on his record, so he built a soul food truck called Goodies that grossed over $1 million in 2024. $1 million out of a truck. That's the clip that lands in your feed at midnight. But read the fine print. At the industry's 5 to 9% margin, $1 million in sales is still a modest paycheck. And Matthews doesn't own one business.
He owns 5, including 16 rental properties that pull in about $11,000 a month on their own. The truck didn't make him rich. The empire he built around the truck did. The food was never the asset, the brand, and everything he stacked on top of it, that was the asset. Step back, because a food truck is a paradox. The same way a casino is. On paper, it's the most efficient bet in food. Per dollar, it's more profitable than the restaurant parked right next to it. 5% against 1 to 3. No dining room, no 15-year lease, no army of waiters. And it still fails almost twice as often. Why? Because that thin margin leaves no room for anything to go wrong. And in a food truck, everything goes wrong. The weather, the generator, the permit, the city ordinance, the price of gas. A restaurant has a bad night and absorbs it. A food truck has a bad day and it's already underwater because the margin was never thick enough to take the hit. The profit is real. It's just razor thin. And everything you stack on that razor, the location, the timing, the catering calendar, that's a fist fight. And the fist fight is where most owners lose. Time to pull it all together and answer the actual question. How much do you make if you do this right? 2 scenarios, real numbers. Scenario 1, you buy a used truck for $60,000. You work the corners, you do it all yourself. A good year, you gross maybe $250,000. After food, fuel, commissary, insurance, and permits, you keep 10, maybe 15%. Call it $30,000 to $40,000. Now divide that by the hours. 60, 70 hours a week. No weekends, all summer long. That works out to about $10 an hour. You didn't buy a business. You bought yourself a minimum wage job with a $100,000 buy-in and no boss to blame. Scenario 2. You treat the truck as marketing. The street service exists to build a name. The money comes from catering, corporate gigs, festivals, a second truck, a brand people recognize.
Same food, same industry, but now you're running an events company that happens to own a kitchen on wheels. That's the version that clears 6 figures. Same truck, completely different business. In scenario 1, that $100,000 truck takes years to pay back, if it ever does. In scenario 2, it paid for itself the first time it turned a festival crowd into a catering contract. Because here's the whole thing in one sentence. A food truck is not in the business of selling food. It's in the business of showing up where the crowd already is and turning that attention into everything else. The people who lose spend $100 grand to sell lunch on a corner. The people who win use that same truck to sell everything but. So before you buy the truck, get very clear on what the truck is actually for.